Hey guys, John Soda here, back again doing another movie review, and today we'll be reviewing Wonder Woman 84. Now, Wonder Woman 84 is directed by Patty Jenkins and features Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Pedro Pascal, and Kristen Wiig. So, the plot of Wonder Woman 84 is that it takes place in 1984, and since the events of the first movie, like 60 years later, like all her friends that she knew from the first movie all died from being old, from aging a lot. Like her war friends, Steve's secretary, like they all died from being old, and like she's been a little depressed because she still misses Steve. Like she still really misses Steve so much, and like yeah. And Wonder Woman, she's been working in this like lab place with this girl named Barbara. Yeah, that was her name, was Barbara. So he was working with her, and so yeah, and she was working with her, and like they see that Barbara has been owning this stone for a while. This stone can like whenever you hold on to it and make a wish, it could come true. Like it can make your wish come true. So yeah, and like so Barbara wishes to be as strong as Diana, cause them two become friends, and then Wonder Woman wishes for no, no more. I'm not gonna say anymore. Okay. This will be spoiler free. I'm not gonna say anymore. Okay. I'm not gonna say anymore. That's all. The next thing I'm gonna say is that the villain to this movie, I forgot his name. I forgot his name. But well, I think I might remember. I think I might remember his name, but I just can't remember it right now. His name. Okay. Excuse me. His name was Max Lord. Yeah, that was his name, was Max Lord. I remember now. Let me see. So Max Lord, he's this sort of rich business owner. He owns the oil company, I think, around the world. I think he owns the oil company around the world. He's basically like he's a lot like Ross Webster from Superman 3. If you guys seen Superman 3, Ross Webster, he controls coffee and oil company all around the world, and he wants to keep it for himself. Like he just wants to keep it all for himself. And yeah, that's basically what how he's like too, sort of, but like that's basically how he's like. And he even looks like him too. Actually, like Max Lord actually looks a little bit like Ross Webster. Actually, let me think. So yeah, he can. So Max Lord, he controls oil around the world, and he wants to be. I think he wants to like he wants, but his full plan doesn't really get explained much. But I think he wants to show the world like who he really is, and like he wants to rule over the world. I think, but I don't know what his full plan is. But like what he does is like he goes over to the lab where Barbara's in, and he steals the stone. Like he steals the wish stone, and he makes it become a part of him, and so he becomes one with this stone, and like whenever he touches people, he can give them wishes. But whenever he gives them wishes, whenever the stone gives people's the wishes, it comes true. But once it comes true, it slowly takes away what you love most, like what you are the most, like what symbolizes you. So yeah, that's basically what the stone does. Yeah, and so Max Lord, like he's been giving a lot of wishes to so many people around the world, and like it's been making people go crazy and all, and it's been making an apocalypse happen. And so Wonder Woman, aka Diana Prince, is gonna try to go and stop Max Lord from doing all this bad shit. Yeah, and she does it with Steve Trevor too. This is not a spoiler because it's in the trailers and everything. She's with Steve Trevor too, and like I won't spoil how he's alive. I won't spoil how he's alive. Okay, but yeah, but how he's alive is doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, it sort of does, but then there's something else in it too that makes no fucking sense to me. You'll know once you watch the movie. What was I just saying? So yeah, I think that's the whole plot of the movie. Now, do I like Wonder Woman 84? No. I didn't like this movie. I did not like this movie at all. This movie was like a horrendous piece of shit. Like literally, this movie was so messy and all over the place. Like literally, this movie from start like it's so like messy, it's all over the place, it shoves things right at your face, like it's so complicated too, like right from the beginning, like it's just so fucking complicated how everything's going on, like how they're progressing the story and all of that. It's not really well, it's not really done well, like it's done so sloppy and so messy. It's just so weird. Like this movie's just so fucking weird. Like literally from the first half of this movie, like it's just so exposition heavy. It's just so like it throws so much at your face and you don't even know what's going on. Like you don't even know what the main purpose of this is. And there's so much confusing shit all around this place. Like there's so much it's like literally everything in this movie is just very confusing and you don't even get to the main point and plot to this movie until the second half of the movie starts. Like until the second half of the movie, that's where you barely start getting it. But from the beginning, it's just so fucking confusing. It's just so weird. Like I don't like this movie. It's just so weird. First of all, let me talk about the script. This movie, okay, sorry, I'm just scooting my camera in or my chair. But this movie script should have been done better. Should have been so much better handled. Like they should have done so much work with the script. Like they should have done more work with the script actually, because that's what makes this movie flop. Is they did not like put full time with the script. It's like the script was incomplete actually. Like that's what made this movie not good. Is like this just the script. They could have done so much better with the script actually. Like this whole fucking movie, it could have been so much better. Like literally, it could have been way better than it is. It could have been like one of the greatest DCEU movies ever. But this is actually, I would call this the worst movie in the DCEU actually. It's not Justice League anymore. This is my new least favorite movie in the DCEU. Just this movie's more worse than Justice League actually. At least Justice League was enjoyable and it was so easy to get what was going on. This is just so hard to know what's going on. It's just so complicated and it's so hard to get it. Yeah, but at least Justice League had a better flow and better feel to it. This movie's pace is so fucking horrendous. Like the pacing is a piece of shit in this movie. The pacing is so, I don't know what the pacing is like. Does it go by slow? Does it go by fast? And the way the scenes go by, like the way this movie flows, it just feels like so weird. Like the pacing could have been so much better too, because the way each scenes progress is just not well done. It's just some scenes happen too fast, some scenes happen too slow. It's just all over the fucking place. That's what I would call this movie. It's just that's the main thing I would call this movie. It's just all over the fucking place. Like literally, it's just so fucking messy. I just I just can't. This movie's so unbearably. It's so unbearably. I can't even talk. It's so unbearable to watch. Like I literally watching this movie, I just couldn't watch this movie. Like I couldn't get into it like at all until the second half of the movie. Like watching it the other day. I watched this on Christmas Day actually. I watched it from I watched it and but then I stopped at the ending cuz like my family came cuz like my cousins came over and they wanted to watch Soul instead. I'm like, "Okay, fuck it. Soul would be so much more entertaining this and than this." And that movie was, but I won't do a review for that movie by the way. I don't really plan on doing a review for that movie. Not that it's bad or anything. I just don't really plan on doing a review for it. All I'll say about Soul is it's a good movie. Check it out. And don't check this movie out. Don't check this fucking movie out. Just don't check this movie out. Just quickly, like, don't waste your money on this. Don't go to the theaters for this at all. Do not go for the theaters. I saw this on HBO Max and that was the most wisest decision for me to do. I was almost going to see this movie in theaters, but then my uncle got it off from HBO Max and then I just saw it on HBO Max and like literally like that was the most wisest thing for me to do was just watch it on HBO Max. I'm so glad I didn't see it in the theaters. So, let me talk about when I was watching this. So, in the opening scene of this movie, I already knew this movie was gonna be bad. Actually, I already knew this movie was gonna be horrible just from the opening scene. The opening scene just starts off with like these people robbing gold from a mall, and then like and then they're just running away, and then like I think one of them takes a little girl and he's gonna jump her off the roof, like because they're on the top floor of the mall. And he's gonna drop her off, but then Wonder Woman saves her, and then Wonder Woman's just like fighting all of them. But the way that's done is so awful. Like all the action sequences in this movie are so awful. Like literally, like they look so fake. They could have been done so much better. The editing and the effects could have been done so much better. Like they look so awful. The camera angles, the editing, the like literally everything about the action sequences just looks so weird. Like it's just so horribly done. Like the way the camera moves on them is just so weird. The way the camera cuts to, like it cuts so many times with these action sequences, and it just is just so weird. Like all action sequences just look very fucking weird in this movie. And just from the beginning, that opening scene with the fight in the mall was so fucking corny. It was so cheesy, so cringeworthy. I was just like, okay, what the fuck is this? And I was like, from this scene, I already knew like what type of movie that I'm gonna watch. Yeah, so from there, I even told my uncle that was sitting next to me. I'm like, that scene was so fucking cheesy. And yeah, so from that scene, I already knew I was gonna watch a bad movie. Is there anything else I should say? Yeah, I just didn't like I didn't like that scene at all. And the way this movie's scenery is too could have been handled a lot better too. Like this movie takes place in the 80s, and the 80s are probably my favorite time ever. But it's a tie between the 60s. No, I actually like the 80s more actually. I like the 80s more than the 60s actually. But the 80s are they seem like really cool times actually, and those are my favorite types of movies that take place in the 80s. And I just like, more than anything, I wish I could have lived in the 80s. So yeah, I just love the 80s so much. That's why I love Stranger Things so much, because it takes place in the 80s. And this movie was what took place in the 80s, and they didn't even do a good job with the scenery at all. Like literally, this movie does not feel like it takes place in the 80s that much. Like most of the times you feel like you're now in nowadays actually. Like this movie feels like nowadays actually. It does not feel like the 80s much. They did not do a good job with assembling the 80s at all. They could have done so much better with the 80s. In the okay, I'm not gonna compare it to the first Wonder Woman yet. Just let me tell you more about the way the 80s looked in this movie. It just could have been looked so much better. Like they could have at least had added more mall scenes. Like it could have been cool if they added more mall scenes, but there was only just one very cheesy mall scene. They could have been so cool. They could have just done so much cool stuff with the 80s. Like go to an arcade, or go watch a movie or something, or like literally the 80s look so cool, or go walk around in the park, or go walk around in the street and talk. Like they could have just done so much with the 80s, but they completely avoid all of that and give you all this shitty shit. Yeah. um Let me think. So yeah, they just didn't assemble the 80s very well. Let me think. Is there anything else I should say? Okay, so I'm gonna compare it to the first Wonder Woman now. Now, because of how bad this movie is, I think I might like the first Wonder Woman so much more now. Yeah, I'll put the review to the first Wonder Woman down below if you guys want to see that, cause I posted a review for that movie before Birds of Prey came out, cause I was marathoning the DCEU before Birds of Prey came out, and I reviewed Wonder Woman on that time. So I'll put the link down below if you guys want to watch that video. But so for the first Wonder Woman, it's mind boggling to me that this is directed by the same woman who directed the first Wonder Woman. It's just so mind boggling to me that she directed this movie. Like, what was she thinking with making this movie? Like, she could have just easily used the same type of emotion she used with the first Wonder Woman and put it on here. I don't know why she didn't do that. Like, it's like here she just completely ran out of ideas, and it's just like she was forced to do this movie, and she was just writing all this random shit down, and she was like, okay, let's work on this. Yeah, that's literally how it felt actually. But Patty Jenkins, she said she was gonna direct another Wonder Woman movie too, and I'm not even interested in that one actually, because of how bad this one is. I'm not even interested in another Wonder Woman movie actually. But the first one, in the first movie, it was so simple. Like it was so simple, so smooth. The atmosphere was so beautiful, and it was very, very easy to get. But with this movie, it's just so sloppy. Like with this movie, it's not simple at all. Like it's not easy to get. The atmosphere is fucking ugly. Like literally, it's just Like, yeah, it's just to even compare this to the first movie is just fucking dumb. Yeah, I don't even want to compare this to the first movie anymore actually, because the first one I think the first one's a masterpiece actually, but I don't give it an A plus actually. I give it an A, but if you guys watch my review, you'll see why. But let me think. Is there anything else I should say about comparing it? I think that's it. I'm not gonna compare it to the first one anymore. It's just stupid to compare this fucking piece of shit to a masterpiece. Okay. Is there anything else I should say? Let me think. Before I get into the characters, let me think if there's any other shit I should talk about with this movie. And the climax too wasn't really all that great either. Like the climax was horrendous too. Like the climax, I did not like the climax at all. Okay, so I'm just gonna say the plot that I was telling you guys, like that's the actual plot to this movie, and I do not like this plot whatsoever. Like I hate this plot so much. This plot does not fit in with the Wonder Woman character, with the movie about this really cool badass Wonder Woman. It does not fit in with a character like that, and I just hate the story so fucking much. Like it just annoys me so much to the story. I just hate it so much. I hate the story. It's just fucking awful. Like literally one of the worst stories of all time. And this movie was too long too, I would say. This movie was 2 hours and 30 minutes. It could have easily been trimmed down a half hour. Like maybe trimmed down a half hour. Maybe it could have been better. Maybe. But it was just too long, I would say. Like you even felt it too. Like you heavily feel this movie actually. Like you heavily feel the 2 hour and 30 minute runtime to this movie. Like right when you're in it, like right when you're watching this movie, you're like, oh, I'm bored. How much more do I have? Holy shit! I still got another hour to the movie. So yeah, that's how fucking slow it is. Um, excuse me. Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so you definitely do feel this movie too. Excuse me. Okay, so let's get to the characters now. Sorry, I'm so sorry. This is the last time I'm doing this. Okay, so let's get to the characters now. The characters, I didn't think Wonder Woman was all that with this movie, actually. I didn't dig her character all that much in this movie. Wonder Woman, but I did kind of like her friendship with Barbara, the cheetah. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's get to. Before I get more. Okay, I'm just going to talk about the characters now. I'll talk about positives as soon as I'm. Like, once I'm talking about the characters, that's when I get to positives, okay? So, the character of Wonder Woman. I didn't think she was nowhere near as good as in the first one. She wasn't even that compelling in this movie actually. Like I did not find her compelling at all in this movie. I did not care for her much. But most of her like relationships with Steve and Barbara, I did like all her relationships with them. I thought they had some pretty cool relationships actually. I think that's my only that's one of my positives about this movie is like only her relationships with them are good, but her whole character as a whole is just not all that great. Let me think. So she's just very bland in this movie. She's so bland in this movie. Like literally, she's very boring, so bland, and she's just not all that great. Is there anything else I should say about Wonder Woman in this movie? The only thing that's good is that like good about her is towards the first hour of the movie she was missing Steve a lot, and so once she like she even tells Barbara how much she misses Steve and all of that. So yeah, and I really liked when she first saw Steve and he was like, I just wish we had more time, and then she's like, Steve. So yeah, I like that scene a lot. And I really liked. Okay, let's not talk about Wonder Woman anymore. I didn't like her character much. That's all I'm saying. Now I really liked Steve a lot. He was pretty cool actually. I mean, he wasn't really cool. He was a good character, but not a cool character. He was not as good as he was in the first one, but he was a good character. Like he's one of my main positives with this movie. Is just his character alone. Yeah. So he was pretty good in this movie. Like I really, but the one thing that I don't. Okay, you guys will know this one. If any of you guys watch the movie, or if you guys have already seen this movie, you might know what's confusing about him. I won't spoil it, okay? But there's something very confusing about him that never gets explained at all. It's just his facial appearance. Okay, that's all I'm saying. It's just his facial appearance. Yeah. But it never gets explained actually, so I thought that was very confusing. But other than that, I liked everything else with him. Like I love the scene where he was getting used to the '80s, where Wonder Woman was showing him around in the '80s. That scene was actually really funny. Actually, she was showing him around in the '80s, and he was like, "Oh, what's this? What's this? Oh, that looks so cool." And I really like when he was getting used to the escalators too, and he was like climbing up the stairs and then climbing down, and yeah, that scene was pretty funny. And I really liked when Wonder Woman was showing him how to dress too, and it was kind of flipped too actually. Like from the first Wonder Woman, it was kind of flipped actually, because in the first Wonder Woman, Steve was showing her how to dress and showing her around the world and all of that, and in this movie, Wonder Woman showing Steve that. So I found that pretty funny actually. So yeah, I think that's one of my main positives with this movie is just their relationship. They had a pretty cool relationship. Is there anything else I should say about Steve? Let me think. And I mostly like Steve in the first half of the movie, mostly. Other than that, in the second half of the movie, he was okay. But mostly in the first half of the movie is where I mostly liked him. Is there anything else I should say about him? And I really liked him assisting Diana too, like helping her out with fighting and all of that. Like when she's fighting, like he helps her out a lot. And I really like those scenes a lot. Is there anything else I should say? And there's a very emotional scene between them two that I found pretty emotional actually. I think I found it the most emotional scene of the whole movie actually. I'm not gonna spoil what happens, but it's towards the end of the movie, and that scene was just very emotional. And I think that might have been my favorite scene of the whole movie actually. I really like that scene a lot. Yeah. Is there anything else I should say about Steve? Let me think. So yeah, and I really liked how he was getting used to flying the aircrafts already. Like he was already getting used to flying aircrafts because he was a pilot, and he was getting used to flying these new airplanes. So yeah. Is there anything else I should say about Steve? Let me think. I mean, he doesn't have. I mean, I wouldn't say he had a full character in this movie. He was mostly just something for Diana to be in love with and to just like have a sidekick to. So I wouldn't say he had a full character in this movie. So yeah, I think that's another flaw with this movie too. Is like he didn't have a full character to this movie. He was just sort of there. But I enjoyed him though. I enjoyed him, but he was just sort of there. So he could have been cut out, but I still enjoyed him. Is there anything else I should say about Steve? I think that's it. And then we get to the villain to this movie. I hate him. I fucking hate the villain. He sucks. He's the worst villain in all of the DCEU. He's literally he's like one of the worst villains I've ever seen in a movie actually. His name, like Max Lord, the villain. I do not like him at all. He is so fucking weird. He's so over the top. Like Pedro Pascal played him very over the top, and he was not good at all. Like I did not like Pedro Pascal as him at all. Max Lord could have been such a better villain. Like the name is even cool, Max Lord. He could have been such a better villain, but he's just such a fucking bad villain in this movie. Like all he wants is just to rule the world. He wants to give people wishes and all of that. He wants to be the ruler of the world, and like he wants to like do everything for himself and all of that. And it's just so fucking dumb. Like he gives so much people wishes, and then like it makes an apocalypse happen, and then like so much other shit. Like he becomes the leader of wishes. He like towards the end he has this very weird plan, and let me think. Is there anything else? And he's getting weak from giving people so much wishes, and like that's literally his whole character is just wishes, 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 wishes. That's literally his whole character in this movie. I did not like him at all. He is a fucking bad villain. Literally the worst villain in all the DCEU. Wait, let me think if that's for sure. We got General Zod, Lex Luthor. Yeah, I think definitely he might be the worst villain in all the DCEU actually. So yeah, I did not dig Max Lord at all. Like he was such a fucking bad villain. I did not care for his plan at all. Like every moment he was on screen, I'm just like, dude, get off the fucking screen. You could have easily been replaced by someone else. You could have easily not been the villain to this movie. Like you could have been handled so much better or something. Like get off the fucking screen. Like just go to Cheetah already. Go to Barbara. Just do something else besides him. Yeah, I just didn't like him at all. Like every scene he was in, just bugged me. Like he bugged the shit out of me. I literally hated Max Lord so fucking much. Like I just hate him so much. That's all I'm saying. It's just Max Lord, fucking atrocious villain. So now we get to Barbara. Now Barbara is actually my main positive to this movie. Actually, I really liked her character a lot. She actually had a character in this movie. She's the only character in this movie that has a good character. Like she was a pretty good character in this movie. Actually, like I could find a bit relate to her because like in the beginning, like. What was I thinking? She was a bit of a freak actually. She was a bit of an outcast. Like she was a little bit like the Riddler from Batman Forever, where she just works at this laboratory, but everyone's always picking at they're always picking on her, and they never ask for her help, and she always feels like she's alone and all of that, and she's always seeing so much she's seeing so much girls getting like she's always seeing so much boys getting at other girls, and she's just like, why can't they ever get at me? Like why can't they ever like fall in love with me? And like yeah, and I could definitely relate to Barbara actually, because that's how I feel with most girls too. Let me think. Is there anything else about Barbara? So yeah, I really liked Barbara towards the first half of the movie, but then towards the second half of the movie, eh, not so much. But towards the first half of the movie was where I mostly liked her actually, and yeah. Let me think. And I really liked when she wished to have as much powers as Diana. And she was having a lot of power. She was like she knew a lot of acrobat skills. She knew how to fight and all of that. So yeah, and I really liked her relationship with Diana again. So yeah, and I really liked her so much. And when she was and I really liked how towards the movie like the stone is like making her goodness that has as she was in the beginning go away. Like she was so good and so nice in the beginning, but then like the stone's making her like be the opposite of that, like all mean and evil. So yeah, and I really like that a lot when she turns. I'm I really like that side of the story a lot, but in the end when she turns evil and she turns into the cheetah, could have been handled a lot better. So yeah, I would definitely say Barbara was my main positive with this movie, but towards the end of the movie, I would say she wasn't as compelling. So yeah. Let's talk about performances. I didn't think the performances were all that great in this movie. Like most performances actually sucked in this movie. Like a lot of the people in the background fucking sucked with acting actually. And I didn't think Gal Gadot was as good as Wonder Woman as she was in the first movie. Like her acting in this movie was not nowhere near as good as in the first one. She barely even acts as Wonder Woman in this movie. Like she's very mediocre with acting as Wonder Woman in this movie. So and now let's get to Chris Pine as Steve. He was okay. I mean, I think he was okay. Pedro Pascal, I didn't like his acting at all. He was very over the top. Kristen Wiig, I thought she was good as Barbara. Let's think. The soundtrack could have been so much better, I would say. They didn't even bring back the same soundtrack from the first movie. In the first movie, the soundtrack was so beautiful and it was so breathtaking. And here, they don't bring back that soundtrack. They instead replace it with this horrible, like, sounding soundtrack. And it's just, I don't like the soundtrack to this movie much. They should have brought back the same soundtrack from the first movie. Yeah. Is there anything else I should say? So yeah, the soundtrack could have been so much better to this movie. Most of the comic relief in this movie didn't really work for me. Like there was so much jokes in this movie, but they did not land for me at all. Let me think. Let me think. Is there anything else I should say? Oh yeah. Let me talk about another positive with this movie that I have. Another positive is that there are only just a smidge of scenes that I did kind of enjoy. Like only a smidge of scenes that I did enjoy. Like I really enjoyed the scene where Diana and Steve were flying around in the invisible jet, and then they were flying through these fireworks. And that scene I thought was really pretty actually. Like there were some scenes there were only a little bit of scenes where that I did find a bit enjoyment in them. But other than that, this movie was very boring. I would say like just very boring. Not a lot of the scenes were not enjoyable for me. Like this movie is not very enjoyable for me. Let me think. Is there anything else I should say? So yeah, just so I already said this, but again, the action sequences weren't all that great in this movie. Like in the end, when she was fighting Cheetah, I thought it could have been done so much better. Let me think. Is there anything else I should say about this movie? I think that's it actually. So yeah, this movie was really bad actually. I did not enjoy this movie much. It just could have been so much better. So to rate this movie, I was planning on rating it an F or something like. I was planning on rating it an F, but since I thought about my positive, this movie, I'll give it a D minus. Yeah, I'll give it a D minus. Yeah. Bye and see you all in the next review.